Lord felt satisfied. Being the reservoir of all fine arts, he next engaged himself in dancing upon the stage of the hoods of Kaliya. Just see. He's the best of enjoyers. There isn't somebody that's better at enjoying than Krishna is. And so he wanted, he killed the demon, he ate fruits, now he wants to dance. Why not? And what a better dancing stage than the hoods of the Kaliya serpent. Moving stage. I mean, fantastic. The Yamuna is Krishna on account of her color and also by name. And thus, she is the Lord's dear friend. As you see in the painting, there's the Krishna, the blackish form of the river Yamuna. So that's one of her names, Krishna, Yamuna, offering a garland to Radha Krishna. Thus, he had to take action when she was contaminated with poison, since she was a dear friend. Just see, this is the storyline, and then woven into the storyline, there's the Krishna's quality that by one thing he's accomplishing many things. No, I wouldn't perceive all these things without the assistance of our acharyas. It's right there in the verse. Krishna did not act simply for her benefit, but for everyone's benefit, since Krishna takes away all sorrows. The whole universe would be benefited by the rescue of such a great holy place of Vraja, since people could drink the water. Kaliya would also be benefited. Krishna could perform such acts because he was able to do many things by one act. You got a friend. You have probably many friends. But somehow people like to tease you. What is that? Because you're small? Is that what it is? You tease him back sometimes too, right? Yeah. You're friends. Okay. Sarpa means a creature that crawls about. Krishna prevented him from going elsewhere. So he didn't want this Sarpa to go elsewhere and contaminate other places. He wanted to purify him and the place. And he was able to do it because he's all pure and he takes away. He's all attractive. Next 2 verses. Parikshit, hearing this from Shukadev, please explain how Krishna chastines Kaliya within the Yamuna. How was Kaliya living there for so many ages? The topics about the Lord in Vrindavan are never satiating. So we all know the pastime, we're not satiated either. Now, Sanatan Goswami comments that because the lake, the river is flowing, and the lake was contaminated. So he had been there there's some explanation that he was in a place that's called the lake, because it's a place where was not where the river was swiftly moving like the Yamuna does. It was a lake. It was a place but he was there for the inference is he was there for a long time to bring this lake to the point where it was so poisonous, as birds would fly over, they would die, fall dead because of the fumes from the lake. Bad. So how did he get there? And how long was he there? And give some of the backstory, please. Text number 3. Here's the Sanskrit. Gopala-dara charitam, in big letters there. Brahman Bhagavatas Tasya Bhumna Swachanda Vartina Gopala-dara charitam. Gopala Udara Charitam commonly means the pleasure-giving, or Udara, the pleasure-giving pastimes of Krishna, born in a cowherd family, Gopal. However, Go can also refer to the senses of the devotees. Gopala means the nourisher of the devotees' senses. Udara means giving happiness. So Gopal Udara Charitam can also mean the pastimes in which bring joy and nourish the senses of the devotee, specifically the cowherd boys. Who is satisfied with one taste of his pastimes, which nourish the senses of the hearer and bring joy to the heart? Now it's part of the expertise of our acharyas, that they can take the words. It's not just word jugglery. It's tasting the message in different ways, based upon potential or possible meanings of the Sanskrit. And they're not just showing their Sanskrit prowess. They're tasting different flavors that are within a certain verse or a certain context. These are rasika bhaktas. They taste rasa from the words of Srimad Bhagavatam. And so we're just tagging along in their footsteps. Because this story, quote, because this story will give you great suffering, I have told it only in brief, unquote. These are sweet stories of the Lord full of powers, Bhagavata, completely perfect and independent as a cowherd, most excellent, or giving happiness. They can counteract great suffering equal to death, the pastimes and hearing the pastimes. These are a medicine to counteract all suffering. Do you know some people that are suffering? I know some people that are suffering. And if you invite them, you like to become free from suffering, you know what? Read Krishna book, or read Srimad Bhagavatam anywhere. And it's medicine, and it will cure your suffering. Are they going to do that? Some people are already doing that, and they're like, yeah. And other people that are kind of stuck in suffering, I've tried it. Doesn't always go in, but it's true. It's true. These pastimes of Krishna, particularly the pastimes of Vrindavan, can cure all suffering, including death. Because he is Bhagavan and full of powers, the Lord's suffering does not actually exist. Because he acts by the desire of his devotees, these actions are done as play, by the master of play. there's no suffering for the Lord. Or because he follows the desire of the devotee, he is always happy in all situations. Now, anyway, there are different ways to look at Krishna. This is one lens. There's no suffering. But, he was... It's one of these enigmatic puzzles that he does and he doesn't. Transcendental, but otherwise not. That's one of the keys. He has nothing to do, but he does everything. Or he was suffering to know that the river Yamuna was poisonous, and so he wanted to do something. So then but also Kaliya was suffering because he was in this terrible condition. He wanted to do something for him too. So, but he when Krishna performs pastimes, it's pastime, meaning it's for him, it's expression of joy. That's his joy in bringing joy to others. And he knows it brings joy to others, and so he brings joy to others. Even the joy of his being caught in the coils of the Kaliya serpent. Oh no! That's an ecstasy. It's a wonderful mystery. Now Shukadeva Goswami will describe in detail how Krishna subdued Kaliya. Text 4. Within the river Kalindi was a lake inhabited by the serpent Kaliya, whose fiery poison constantly heated and boiled its waters. Jiva Goswami explains, the lake was quite wide, 8 miles at some points. The water in the lake was very deep and, like the immovable depths of the ocean, could not be agitated. Approaching the lake was difficult, for its shores were covered with holes in which serpents lived. So it wasn't just Kaliya, it was a whole team. Kaliya lived in a cave within the water by using his power to stop water from entering his cave. By the mystical science of Jala Stamba, making solid items out of water, Kaliya had built his own city within the lake. Wow. Did you know that? The vapors thus created were so poisonous that birds flying, we know this one, flying over the contaminated lake would fall down into it simply by coming in contact with that poisonous breeze. All vegetation and creatures on the shore died. Bad. A lake within the Kalindi. What does this mean? This Kaliya lake was situated on its southern side, extending a distance of 1 yojana. And we all know the duration of, or the distance of 1 yojana is 8 miles. That's a big lake. In the river? Otherwise, the river, listen, its current touched by the lake's poison would have become unusable by persons residing in Mathura and other places. Because 1 yojan or 8 miles, Mathura's within that jurisdiction. But, above that, the people in Mathura weren't afflicted by the poison of the Kaliya lake. Krishna saw how the Kaliya serpent had polluted the Yamuna River with his terribly powerful poison. So Krishna's walking out on the branch. Krishna descended from the spiritual world specifically to subdue envious demons. Directly a verse from chapter 16. For the Vrindavan Yatra, mission impossible. Guru Das is trying to pin Dinabandhu down to dates that he'll be there with us. Mr. Spontaneous. But he has the dates, and he's not making a promise, but he knows the dates. And Guru Das is not, obnoxious. He's very, very gentle, but nice devotee and a little persistent. And Dinabandhu's gotten the message. So I'm mentioning Dinabandhu because there's one place, maybe some of you have been with Dinabandhu or with us when he was with us, where he took us to a place that's, one of Dinabandhu's favorite spots, where there's this gigantic banyan tree. And in Dinabandhu's way of describing things, you're with Krishna. And he said this tree was kind of magical, like this image here on the screen. And the cowherd, not only Krishna, but the cowherd boys and the cows would cross the Jamuna on the branch of this mystical tree. And there's the tree, there's Dinabandhu. Jamuna's over there. You can't see it from where we would, have. He's got this little platform, raised platform. You know what I'm talking about? Have you been to that place? I hope he agrees to the dates that we want him to come. Anyway, this is just Krishna's walking on a branch of a tree, but there's other branches of other trees, and it's a mystical place. Mystical place. You feel the presence of Krishna because Krishna's pastimes, Krishna never leaves Vrindavan, which means sometimes his pastimes are manifest and sometimes his pastimes are not manifest. Prakat and aprakat, lila. So when they're aprakat, you can't see, but he's there. And sometimes Krishna, does the Hari Bol, here I am, and then disappears. But he's there. And by the katha of Krishna's pastimes, the vibrancy, the spiritual potency is such that palpably one can, sensitive Vaishnavas can feel Krishna's presence because he's present and enacting the pastimes that are being described as he's describing them or as the devotee is describing them. It's one of the things I like about all these nice images. We're not in Vrindavan, we're sitting here in Naperville. But the picture and the narration, depending upon attentiveness and the strength of one's bhakti, one can palpably experience something beyond just a nice story. I know some storytellers. I was going to tell you a story about a storyteller. Really good at storytelling. But there's no substance. And here's their substance. Therefore the Lord immediately climbed to the top of a very high kadamba tree and prepared himself for battle. Tightening his belt. There's the Kadamba tree, and Krishna is going to jump into the Kaliya lake from the Kadamba tree. He tightened his belt, slapped his arms, and then jumped into the poisonous water. Only the Kadamba tree remained unaffected because once Garuda sat in this tree when taking nectar, and some of the nectar spilled on the tree so the tree didn't die. The tree remained there to get the blessing of the touch of Krishna's lotus feet in the future. He tied up his hair, ornaments, etc. Harivangsha says he bound his waistband tightly. Then he jumped into the water. So there's the place today standing, the Kadamba tree, very, 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 very old Kadamba tree. And there's a branch apparently held up by some cement structure. And it's the same, they say, it's the same Kadamba tree. The Kadamba tree near the Kaliya lake was Krishna's tree. Therefore, it alone did not wither away, since it could remove the poison from others. Commentary by our acharyas. One should understand that Krishna maintained this tree at his place of his pastimes. So now back to the chapter. When the Supreme Lord landed in the serpent's lake, the snakes, notice there's many, because he had his, and then he had many. There are holes in it, and they stayed in those holes. And he had a cave with he was protected. The snakes there became extremely agitated and began breathing heavily, further polluting it with volumes of poison. He had some buddies. The force of the Lord's entrance into the lake caused it to overflow on all sides, and poisonous, fearsome waves flooded the surrounding lands up to a distance of 100 bow lengths. That's a lot. But Krishna can be lighter than the lightest and heavier than the heaviest, and he jumps in water and it can be nothing, or it can be 100 bow lengths of waves. He jumped in the water. His jumping in the water caused a shock, since he was the best of men. Purusha Sara. The lake became disturbed by the speed of the Lord and showing a little of his strength when he fell into the water. The force of Krishna's jumping from the tree into the Yamuna raised huge, fearful, reddish-yellow waves colored with the poison. In all directions, there were waves 400 hands tall. I don't know what 400 hands are, but it sounds pretty big. Reddish yellow. Now, how does Vishwanath Chakravarti understand all this? He wasn't there. It's not fiction. So that is to say, such an elevated Vaishnava, he may directly experience and have revelation or realization. Krishna can reveal, and Krishna, in his case, reveals lots of things. It's not in the pages of the Bhagavatam, but, it's the realization of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He's a pretty amazing personality. Next verse. When Krishna began sporting in the lake like a lordly elephant, Kaliya heard these sounds. He understood that someone was trespassing in his lake. He could not tolerate this and immediately came forward. envy. Krishna began playing in the water, making musical sounds with the water. As he churned the water with his two arms, a thunderous roar arose. Hearing that sound, the snakes concluded that there must be some rebellion, abhibhavam, above their snake hole houses. Or Krishna had playful movements, vikrama, like a mad elephant in the water. Or he had special powers, vikrama, even in his little toe, greater than a mad elephant. Sanatana Goswami writes, Kaliya saw Sri Krishna, who wore a yellow silken garment. Interesting illustration, huh? Krishna smiling. He was very delicate. His attractive body was shining like a glowing cloud. His chest bore the mark of Srivatsa. So this is directly a verse in the chapter from Shukadev. Next, the Lord was playing fearlessly, his face smiling beautifully, and his feet resembling the whirl of a lotus flower. Now this comes later, Kaliya trying to bite Krishna. Despite his wonderful appearance, the envious Kaliya furiously bit him on the chest and then completely enwrapped him in his coils. His form, Krishna's form, although most attractive to see, bestowing happiness, appeared to Kaliya as just the opposite, Vishwanath writes. Who has come to my lake? Because he was wicked, Kaliya acted this way. Jiva Goswami writes, Krishna was playing in the water because he was without fear of others. This indicates that Kaliya had no intelligence. To show the great offense of Kaliya, Shukadev, taking the mood of the people of Vraja, laments and describes the beauty of Krishna. The word Chakshu Shava, or snake, literally means he who hears through his eyes. He had no ears to hear good instruction. He wrapped Krishna in his body, which looked like an arm. Thus, the snake is called Bhoga or Bhunjaga. Here, Bhunjaya means the snake's coil. So he was wrapped up in the snake's coil. In actuality, however, his biting the Lord upon the heart should be understood as his heartily kissing the Lord's limbs. All right. Sanatana Goswami. His covering him, Krishna, with his snake body should be understood as his firmly embracing the Lord, all of the Lord's limbs. Therefore, quote, with anger means as if with anger, but actually it is with pure love. This is because the Lord was, quote, most worthy of being seen. Better correct the spelling in some of these words. Look at this. Here's another verse. I hope you're ready for another verse. There we go. Same source. Same source. This is from Rupa Goswami.
Mangalani vitanotu tandave Panditastava Shikanda Shekhara.
No, it's only once through. Let's do it again. So you can sing with her.
Kaliyasya Manaratna Kuntimam Uttayam Palasartanai Mangalani Tamutu Kandave Panditastava Shekhara.
May Lord Krishna, who wears a peacock feather crown and is the expert dancer who, with his lotus feet, kicked the jeweled hoods of Kaliya, grant auspiciousness to you. So there's Krishna in the coils, and there's the cowherd boys on the shore, there's the Kadamba tree, and that's the end for this evening. But if you come tomorrow, we'll continue tomorrow. I think we'll see some people back for tomorrow. Very sweet, huh? Kaliya is a recipient of special mercy. Bad, but recipient of special mercy. So that means that badness was just bad cosmetic, external, and inside something different. You know, because Krishna can do whatever he wants to do, and he just decided to relieve him of this envious, contaminated spirit. And that's how it started. It started, small, but it got big. And then, expanded to others that were, party to his same program. Okay. Any discussion? Oh, Vaishnavas.
Manoj, I have a couple of questions.
Mm-hmm.
So on this point that you brought up, that the Lord suffered with the cowherd boys and he also does not suffer.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple pastimes come to mind. One is my favorite, Gopakumar. And when Gopakumar finally goes back to Krishna, Krishna says, I've always looked toward the path by which you would come.
Mm.
So it sounds like, Krishna waits for all of us. And he, like a parent, is sad that we're not with him. And also, Radhika Raman Prabhu and Geeta Nagari had said this, that a statement that has just stayed with me about Anukampa, that Krishna suffers or trembles with the living entity. That is his quality. So, which is it? Is Krishna suffering because I'm not with him?
Well, you know the answer. Yes, you do. When I say the answer, you say, oh, yeah. It's a rasa topic. The rasa topic is what looks by material inspection to be miserable is ecstasy. A real common one, like 1, 2, 3, common. In Ramayana, I remember this very clearly, reading the English translations of Ramayana, and how many times the word sorrow was there. But it's an ecstasy. The sorrow is the emotion, and it's an emotion, but it's an ecstatic emotion. It's not the sorrow that we know. in this event and that event, the other event, and sorrow upon sorrow upon sorrow. It's a secondary rasa, and so Krishna's feeling. There's different ways of describing his feeling, but the short of it is ecstasy. He never suffers, but he suffers. Wait a minute. It's a secondary emotion in relation to his devotees. In this case, the Brijbasis, but it's not only in Vrindavan. He has affection, and when they're in difficulty, he feels something. Like Gopakumar, he feels something, or like us. Who are we with specks, insignificant specks? Does Krishna care? This is one of the topics from our japa retreat. Does Krishna care? Of course he cares. Little old me? Boo-hoo, little old me. But yes. And so, and he's waiting, and so forth and so on. And then there's an emotion, expectantly waiting. There's more to it besides looking at the path. He says to Gopakumar, I thought maybe in this lifetime you'll come, but you didn't come. And then I thought maybe the next lifetime, but you didn't come. Several times saying the same thing. And now you've returned. Please never leave. With emotion. So he's a little boy. He's a little boy taking care of cows. No big fanfare. But he has love. And Krishna has love in reciprocation. Even when there isn't love, it's there for all of us. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sajya Kabunoi. It's already there, covered. So, there's varieties of emotion in the realm of ecstasy. And it's an emotion. He's feeling for the suffering of others. And if he's the all-powerful one, he just changes turn the dial, let it become different. He doesn't interfere. He encourages. He sends representatives, comes himself, etc., etc. But he doesn't interfere. Yes. I can tell.
The parents know.
Go ahead.
Mostly the parents know the lake where the Kaliya is living. Why the parents let the children go and play there near the lake, and they didn't have any instructions for them not to go.
They instructed them, but the boys went anyways. You have children?
How they,
Yeah, you should have tied him up.
what was the situation when Krishna was being caught like that?
It's a pastime. Stop complaining. It's a pastime. You don't belong in Vrindavan. But they belong in Vrindavan, and they're enacting a pastime also. They know what Mother Yasoda said. They know what that lake is like. There's, poison vapors coming up out of the lake. They know. But, something happened. They became overwhelmed with thirst because of the hot summer, and the cows entered, and they immediately died, and the cowherd boys entered because they to attach to the cows. Come on. It's pastime. Super soul is inspiring them to do this and that and the other thing, and you're complaining.
One more question is that what was the Kaliya in previous life? What was
We're going to get there. Don't worry. We're going to get there. Okay, he's ready to turn over the microphone. Who wants the microphone? Over here? Gungan, right?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I was really surprised when I think Jiva Goswami is talking about the biting of Kaliya as a kiss, and the coils as an embrace.
Sanatana Goswami. Yeah.
And so I mean, this is the first time I've heard that.
That's the first time I heard a few things. I mean, like, he built a city underwater with water in his by mystic power and made structures. There is such a mystic power, and he had it. He built a city under the water. So life is full of surprises.
So Maharaj, going back to the very first slide, you talked about, you started off with a message about the serpent, which is like a mind. Yeah, this is very specific verse. So is it that our mind sometimes embraces the Lord, but mostly rejects?
Well, it depends on you. It depends on your mind. Sometimes we move closely and sometimes we move away. So it's poetic. And does it literally mean, or does it poetically mean? If you're Rupa Goswami, you feel it when you write it. It's not just cute. You feel it. Like Krishnadas Kaviraj, lower than the worm and stool. That's poetic, but it's like really low. And how can he write the literature that he wrote when you're feeling so despondent about his lack of quality and lack of character? How did he? Because the Vaishnavas kept insisting, and so he did, etc. So,
just to me, Maharaj, was again the to me it felt like Krishna is so magnanimous.
yeah,
Even the worst intention, he's
yeah,
accepting it with.
and as Krishnadas Kaviraj feels the way that he feels, Rupa Goswami feels the way that he feels. It's a different way of expressing, the lowliness, the paucity of qualification, the bad qualification. And when I sent one of those prayers. There's Raghunath Das Goswami has one such prayer, right in Manashiksha. And I sent it to one of our Manani Radha. She maybe can listen to this recording and hear her name. She wrote back saying, "Where's that coming from?" It's and it's not just cute. That's how he feels. Self-deprecating. Nonetheless, I'm calling with earnestness to Shrup Damodar and Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami to kindly give their mercy to such a fallen, lowly, unqualified person. It's not just cute. It's his feeling. So, we don't have those feelings. But it's not like you get those feelings and you're in good shape. Because if you don't have the spiritual qualification and have those feelings, you're in the dumps. low self-esteem and all of that kind of language. But, spiritual humility. So it's a profound spiritual sense of who one is in connection with Krishna. And then, who am I? What qualification do I have to be with Krishna in the form of his name? And so it's all of those things. And so it's a notion that we hear about. We don't feel it because the coverings and the other shelters that we have strong material affinity. So here we are, practicing in the association of elders. So that's one way to process such expressions as this. Rupa Goswami, as elevated as he has these feelings. Raghunath Das, as elevated as he has these feelings. Krishna Das, what a masterpiece, Kaviraj. For sure, Kaviraj. And what a masterpiece. And the teachings of Lord Chaitanya are the most elevated. And he's feeling lower than the worm in the stool. And it's not just cute. So we it's beyond our experience, that's for sure. Maybe we have moments of humility, but not like this, and not consistent. Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I also had a question about what Sanatan Goswami says about Kaliya biting Krishna's chest, and that's to be taken like Krishna was kissing him. Like it's to be taken as Kaliya showing affection for Krishna, his love for Krishna. And I was wondering if Krishna also took it that way. Like when someone approaches Krishna with anger or envy or something like that, could there be a chance that Krishna takes that as love? Like he looked at Putana as his mother when she was...
Well, that's different. I mean, because she did some service. But it is not like he looked at the act that poisoning him was love. He was able to look beyond that and see, here's some service. So your question is, what was Krishna seeing when Kaliya did this and Kaliya did that? What was Krishna seeing? Was he seeing that's the love of Kaliya? You have to ask Krishna what he was seeing. But certainly the two things. The fundamental position of all living entities is the eternal servant of Krishna. Just like the description of the topmost devotee is seeing how everyone is serving Krishna. They don't, it's not like they can't see the misbehavior, but everyone is serving Krishna. And therefore to be respected. But not, then the behavior towards to be respected, everybody, is different according to their position, in a natural way. Now, back to your question. What was Krishna? It was Krishna experiencing, this is Kaliya's way of expressing his love for me. That's your question. I don't know. Our acharyas haven't said that, so I'm not prepared to say that. What's Krishna experiencing when Kaliya went to bite him and wrapped him in his coils? This is his embrace. This is his kissing. When Bhishma was firing arrows, that's how Krishna was taking it, because he knew what was inside. That was the way, and the etc. And that's not the same with Kaliya. But exactly what is it if it's not the same as with Bhishma, Dave? Then what is it? Without our acharyas, I'm not going to go there.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. Someone else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. My question is about in these pastimes, the Lord is. I'm trying to draw some parallel with Prahlad and Nrsimhadev. The Lord is kind of his enjoyment for him dancing on the hoods of Kaliya.
Yeah.
But for the Vrajavasis, it's like a lot of challenge. I mean,
Yeah.
fear and
Naturally.
same thing with the Prahlad. I mean, Nrsimhadev fighting with Hiranyakashipu, I mean, was great, but for Prahlad, he had to go through so many things before Nrsimhadev appeared. But for those devotees, the pure and great devotees, of course, we will get to know how they are dependent on the Lord.
Yes.
Through these things.
Yes.
But then the suffering and the challenges, they are still going through it. But what you were saying earlier, from their perspective, they are not really.
That's
challenged.
right. You got it. You nailed it. Prahlad wasn't feeling. We see it and we're going, and Prahlad was, because the Lord will protect me. There's a nice verse in Vishnu Purana. This is quoted by Jiva Goswami in his Bhakti Sandarbha, that in Vishnu Purana, Prahlad says that the tusks of the elephants got smashed, not by some power of me, but by just remembering the personality of Godhead. The tusks of the elephant got smashed. No, he was feeling protected. Protected by what? By remembrance, by bhakti. And he was protected by bhakti. Now, we're not in that position, but at least in principle, to whatever degree we're protected from, the nasty atmosphere of Kali Yuga, it's because of bhakti. Otherwise, we're caught up in the swirl of the nastiness, in different degrees, maybe by modes of nature a little less, and maybe a little more, but not protected. How can we think of what all the people in the room do here every day, in work and in being in the world and being with people that this question came last night in Jersey City. One fellow said, I work in Manhattan and it's awful. And that was his experience, and you probably all have your experience. It's maybe same awful or, varieties of awful. But what protects us? Bhakti. And with that protection of bhakti, we feel protected. We're not foolish, but we feel protected somehow or another. Krishna will protect us, and Krishna protects us. Sometimes and sometimes there's hardship and there's, this and that. But Krishna's protection is there. Okay. Shri Radhika, you have the last question, then we're going to end.
Guru Maharaj, this is on the topic of envy. In the Japa retreats, you have been repeating Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's saying about the ear is envious of the other senses. And my doubt comes from...
No, it's the other way around. The other senses are envious of the ear.
Yes. And it's understandable that a living entity like Kaliya has envy, but I'm unclear about how senses that don't have consciousness.
Oh, come on. The senses don't have consciousness, but there's the living entity that's behind that sense organ is conscious. And I value this one more than that one. Largely we value our mind, or secondarily, seeing is believing. If I can see it, then I can believe it. If I hear it, who knows? But seeing is believing. So Bhaktisiddhanta has his way of saying that the superior to the mind and the other senses is the ear. And if one can hear with the spiritual ear, meaning not the recovering, but the spiritual ear, then the mind becomes conquered. And the enviousness of the other senses becomes so enviousness, and it's not their personified enviousness. It's just the consciousness of the soul that's misidentifying with matter values this sense more than that sense of the six senses. The mind is numero uno. That's me, by the way. I'm my mind. Ooh, what a road. So, and can it be changed? Yes. So he's just describing how it can be changed. Put the mind, put the ear up here, and the other senses become pacified. They'll quarrel and grumble, but when that's established, they're pacified. They're subordinate to, subservient to the hearing of transcendental sounds. The mind becomes conquered. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna devotees. Small announcement. I think tomorrow's class will be at 5 p.m. Instead of 6 p.m. I think that was originally published. It's 5 p.m. with Chinese translation.
5 p.m. Fantastic. Okay. Guess